vase like this, start with your branchy stuff first because you need to build a structure into it. And the mouth on this is only maybe 2.5 inches wide, so we're not going to get a lot into it. And we're just going to see what this ends up looking like because I don't have any preconceived notion here. I'm going to start, this is tulip tree, by the way. It's just a bloom that I happen to love. Upstairs in the exhibit, somebody had used one of these in one of the pieces upstairs. The blooms were gone, but it had started to leaf out.
It's fabulously beautiful, however, it lasts about
well,
5
it's for
minutes.
a party.
I mean, it'll last for a party.
And sometimes you just have to kind of let them fall, see where they're going to go, and then play with it.
And then in your other exhibit upstairs, the Maplethorpe, there's this stunning photo of these Gloriosa lilies as well. Which I suppose I can give you a little background on that as well. It's amazing. I mean, flowers obviously come from all over the world anymore. Like when I have a bride come and say, oh, can I have, what?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to do pedal.
When you, you have a bride that's getting married, here in the wintertime and she wants peonies and she's like, I'd really love peonies. I'm like, well, I can get them for you. They're coming from the other side of the world and they're going to cost you a bloody fortune, but it is doable. And it's amazing, there's even newer markets like Ecuador, there's a lot of roses coming out of South America. But one of the most amazing, now is this Japanese? Am I telling a lie?
It is Japanese.
Okay. The Japanese are cultivating floral now that's just like unbelievable, which these Gloriosa lilies. I mean, you see them coming from the Dutch, they're still stunning, but the Japanese are cultivating this floral that are just
in the market now,
unbelievable.
The Dutch ones that you see are just blooms. It's, they'll cut the stem about here, you've got 4 or 5 inches, and then they package them in a plastic
like
bag
air
with
bubbles,
the air injected into it to protect the blooms. And the color's a little more magenta.
Yeah.
It's not this red. The Japanese have like 3 or 4 shades of red they're doing, and they do a yellow and they do an orange as well. But you don't see them as much, and they're usually more expensive. But these I have to wait till the finishing touch, though.
And for some reason as well, I'm sorry, the quality is impeccable as well. And even the way they package them, I mean, you get things from Holland, you get things from Ecuador, they've been wrapped, kind of thrown in a box. I mean, they do it well, and you get things from Japan, and they're like, you'll get a package of sweet peas, and it's...
And this is it. This is Japanese sweet peas.
It's like laid out impeccably. It's like the specimens that they're... I mean, you pay for it, but the specimens that they have are just absolutely amazing. And that's just a more recent, I guess, in the past couple years, I guess, we went to
Probably
that Japanese...
3 years.
Yeah.
And it's odd the way the markets are working because there used to be a lot of Australian goods in the market that were just every other week one of the big wholesalers would get in. There's incredible stuff, like you'd just been to the Outback, things I'd never ever seen before. Well, all of a sudden that stopped, and I'm not sure why, but it's sort of sad because it was interesting material. And now they're working on Japan, so. And these, things like this, they're going to get really leggy, but they're pretty sturdy. We had them staked for transport. I've never tried to use these for any long period of time, but they certainly would stay fine for a party and not snap on you.
And that's basically considered like wild sweet pea, right, basically? In a form? Normally you see sweet pea
that's nice,
bound
actually.
very simple.
And sometimes you can just support, like the branch I just put in, like if you don't like it like that, you can easily support it on a limb. You could tape it, you can wire it. There's lots of tricks you can do. It sort of just depends on your final destination where you're imagining the piece. And if, like, let's just say that when it's bent over, it cut off, it bent here. Don't worry about it. Cut it off, and then you've got another piece. One more.
Questions? More stories? Anything?
Okay.
Last week, this is Curly Willow, right? Is this what this is, Daniel? And one of our ladies from the East Side, she was having a birthday party for her husband. And she flew in. He was a pianist, I guess, basically, right? Because I wasn't there.
From New Orleans.
From New Orleans. And so then she wanted us to create New Orleans. Her building has a small dining room in her building. And she wanted us to recreate New Orleans in her dining room. So Dan got wrought iron fixtures. And then I don't know how much of this you had. Basically trees worth of curly willow. And draped that with
Spanish moss.
Spanish moss. It was all lit with candles. And
a lot of sort of swamp plants on the table, Sarracena, some pulsatias. I was going to bring them today, and it was just kind of fun.
Yeah, very interesting, very elegant evening, all planned and stuff. And then at the last minute, this is what always happens, and it seems to happen more regularly now than ever. It's like there's a lot of last minute stuff, it seems, anymore. Like right before we got in the car to come out here today, my bride this Saturday sends me an email, and we've discussed this many, many times so far. She decided that her escort card is going to be like an old-fashioned dance card, which I thought was stunning. It was a really nice stock with the ribbon that you could attach to your wrist. Just an interesting, different way of doing an escort card. And originally she wanted me to hang them from pegs, and I talked her out of that because that would have just been too cluttered. And then we were going to actually hang them from giant branches of cherry, which is stunning. We've done it before. I hate it because it's a nightmare because I have to hang all these cards in alphabetical order all around a giant arrangement, which takes me forever, but it can be done. But I talked her into just laying them out beautifully. We've done it before. We did it at the Four Seasons earlier this year. Just makes a lovely table. Well, just today, and the wedding is Saturday, she sent me an email this morning saying, Bri, I just got them in. I think they're great, but now I really think we need to hang them. And so, to say the least, I just sent an email that I would be out of the office today and that I would be getting back to her shortly. But, because they're going to be on the table. They're not being hung, I can tell you. At this point, they're going to be on the table. But, now, I segued into this. Oh, I know it. So, last minute. So Dan had created
Back to the Bayou part, yes.
Yes, back to the Bayou, back to New Orleans, the pianist, this stunning, beautiful evening that she'd created. Love this client. She's fabulous. She calls Dan up at home, right? At home.
About 8 o'clock one evening.
Yeah.
And said, now did I tell you we're moving from the small dining room to the big dining room? We're no longer 16 people at 2 round tables. This has got to be at a big long table. I was fine with that. I was like, all right, I'll make it work. It's not a big deal. And she said, now here's the other thing. She said, I want to jump out of a cake. You can handle that for me, can't you?
Yes. All right, and this was what, 3 days prior, or?
Yeah, 3 or 4 days prior.
3 or 4 days prior. I'm like, Stan gets to the office and he's like, oh, guess what Susan wanted? I'm like, oh, what? Blah, blah. And I'm like, a cake? And I'm like, what? I don't know where to find a cake that big. And Dan's like, oh, I'll make one. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I do not want to have to deal with trying to make a cake and everything else. And so I immediately start Googling and stuff, and this beautiful cake comes up. I'm like, oh, perfect. From Australia. It's like, all right, obviously I'm not going to get that here in 3 days or whatever. But miraculously, believe it or not, we're on 28th Street, and I found it where, on 26th? Mm-hmm. So,
a prop place.
Yeah, from a prop place. So
Yeah,
if there's a will, there's a way in New York City, but it's just sometimes a little daunting. And apparently it all went very, very well. We saw her at a function up at the Garden at the AGF show, and she had it on her iPhone, and she was showing everybody her jumping out of her cake and surprising her husband, so it was a good thing.
And I'm sure most of you probably know what I was just putting. This is like I assume most of you are from New Jersey. Pokeberry, Indian bush, whatever you want to call it, is a lot of it around here in the summer. But these are the ones that come from the Caribbean, which you can get this time of year. I love berries, I love texture, and I like the way it just kind of makes it informal. I don't know where we're going here, so. We have room for probably 3 or 4 more stems in here, and that's about it.
See, this is my idea of making an arrangement. When I have to make arrangements, if he's away on holiday or whatever, my arrangements are so fat and so tight that they can't move and fall apart. I cram as much stuff as I can get into that vase, and then normally the client's happy because I normally blow the budget as well because I'm shoving so much stuff in there.
It's really important to turn the vase around when you're working. I mean, you can make it one-sided, you know, depending on where you're going to put it, that's fine. But turn it around because it's got to have some depth to it. You don't want just a flat arrangement or something that looks like a skyscraper going one direction.
Yes, dear.
Do you have a favorite wedding venue in the New York metropolitan area that really shows off the flowers? And can you describe the event that you did there and the type of flowers?
Sure. The question was, do we have a favorite event venue in New York City? And one of my favorite weddings. It was actually up on the slideshow. It was Lynn. She got married, I don't even remember the name of the church. It was up in Park Avenue somewhere. Small, simple, elegant church, but the venue was Capitale, downtown. It's that old bank, still has the old Teller walls, the colonnade all the way around, beautifully vaulted ceiling that can be lit. Beekman, what's the lighting company that?
Bentley Meeker.
Bentley Meeker, they're basically the preferred lighting company there. Do amazing work. It's just a very grand, it's just a very, I mean, you need to fill the space. You can, it has to be, you know, it's nice to either have it within the Teller walls, which I think probably seats about 175 to 2 within, or then if you spill out past the old Teller walls, then you need a big wedding. You need like 250, whatever. But it's truly stunning because the lighting there is impeccable. The colonnade's lit up. The wedding we did there was, we had two tables. The groom was a little bit more modern and contemporary. Their theme was the peacock. Don't ask me where that came from because they never told me. But so the groom was very modern. So all of the low centerpieces were in beautiful, just glass spheres. They're just giant glass spheres filled with calla lilies, peacock feathers. I don't remember exactly what else was in there, but just very simple and elegant.
White
Ranunculus, possibly peonies, I guess, maybe. And then Lynn, she wanted the grand, beautiful. So we got these stunning, like, champagne flutes. And they were just filled with peonies and hydrangea and French tulips. We got really long peacock feathers coming out of them. And we changed all the tablecloths. Like, I mean, you can do very stunning, simple weddings. I'm not saying you have to blow the bank. They blew the bank, and to the nth detail. The cocktail napkins had the peacock feathers printed on. I mean, it was just a really beautifully stunning wedding. She had a Monique Lhuillier dress that the tulle created roses. I mean, she was a stunning, stunning bride. Very expensive. It was, I mean, it was a couple years ago, and just the floral was, I want to say 60, right? Wasn't it? Something like that?
Something like
Just the floral was $60,000. Yeah. Her dress was 15. It was stunning. It's beautiful. There's a lot of change. But also, sweetest couple in the world. That's the thing with, like, I deal with most of the brides and grooms, and again, another point, if you're getting married or whatever, and have children getting married, the more easygoing you are with your florist,